Okay, so preparing the frame for grafting. So what I've got, bits of old comb, always keep hold of these because they're handy, and frame, and since the last time I've picked up a more reliable lighter. So this time, as I've probably mentioned, the refinements I'm making include I'm only going to apply heat to these bits, not the back of the cell with the egg in. So we're just going to melt 5 on one row, 5 on the other. So if we start out here, we're just going to get that and squish that down. It's a little bit warm on the hand, but nothing too major. So I'm just mixing up the order just to allow me to divide off the space in my mind. So now we can put another in here. So just getting a little bit of a melt down so that it stays on. One a little bit more. I'll probably just go and give a little redo there. One more here. And then we'll repeat along the, well, technically bottom row, top at the moment. Okay. So we're going to go into Good Queen, give her a standard inspection, but also pick out a good frame to harvest from again. If you remember from our last one, I cut a hole out of the middle of one frame. It'll be interesting to see how far they've repaired that. They're usually quite quick off the mark. And yeah, I will talk through with you a few of the refinements that we're making to this process after the first one round in just a moment. So yes, as I mentioned in the preamble, refinement number 1 is I'm not going to apply heat to the backside of the cells that I'm sticking into the frame. I'm only going to apply heat to the blobs of wax that I've already put on that frame. Now, I think that's a fairly marginal gain. I don't think that I will have cooked any of those really, but I just think there's that slimmest of chances, and I can do it without. I can do it just by heating that blob, so why not just play it as safe as possible. Refinement 2 is I'm going to harvest eggs this time rather than young larvae. Now, I managed to just bamboozle myself a little bit because the previous method of transplanting larvae with a little paintbrush from the cells into newly artificially made cells that we've made out of wax required you to do it with larvae because you can't actually get the eggs to stick back down, whereas the larvae stick themselves down. And I think that's the only reason that that method grafts larvae over eggs. I think putting in eggs gives you that best chance of the grub being given royal jelly from very, very early on to give you top quality queens. I discussed that in a previous video. You want that royal jelly to be going in very, very early to get you a nice big fat queen that's giving you the best chances. Refinement 3 is that I'll be putting those eggs into a hive that actually hasn't had any brood in for 4 days. So all of the existing eggs that they're in that central chamber, in my triple chamber hive, will have been hatched out and will already be young larvae. That also gives me a chance to assess how ready they are to receive them by looking at how many queens they may have made themselves out of larvae that are there, or queen cups, but we'll see about that in a little while. And then refinement 4, I can come back in 4 days and have a look at what they've done with those cells. They will be capped off and ready to be moved into an incubator at day 8, and so at day 4 I can also then transplant some new nurse bees and brood from the outer chambers into that central chamber to get them ready for the next round after I take the round 2 of queen eggs out and start the whole process again for round 3. Now, while I've been talking, I've not really been talking through what's on your screen, but there hasn't really been that much to tell. But this is the first frame that's of interest because it's got Good Queen on it. There she is, dead centre, and can see what a lovely big girl she is. I know that I say that most times that we see her, but she really is an excellent queen. Now, what I'm looking for as we go through here is a nice patch of eggs with nothing too valuable on the other side of them. So if I could find a patch of eggs with nothing on the other side, that would be perfect. But actually all I'm finding as we go through here, and I take 2 looks through the frames to try and find them, is patches of eggs, but on the reverse side of each frame is actually really nice areas of sealed brood, which I'm not too willing to cull. So, failing to find a good patch of eggs in Good Queen this week, I changed my mind and decided to go for Second Best Queen, a new character to enter our tales here for you. Second Best Queen is actually one of the queens in the donor hive, in the rearing hive, and she is fairly prolific. They gave us a good amount of honey last year, and her bees are much better tempered as well. And so all is not lost though. As I go through this, I actually see something that I have never seen before, and so we will just skip forward and I will let you look at it, and then I'll tell you all about what we're seeing. So I'm really glad that I spot this. The queen is quite hard to see as we look here. She's just off the bottom of the centre screen there. And the reason she's hard to see is that her abdomen is obscured because she was caught in the act of laying an egg in the cell.
How about that then? Getting to actually see Good Queen laying an egg. I have never actually had my eyes on that. It's pretty unusual because queens tend to be running around. She's obviously old enough and wise enough to know that I don't mean her any harm, and so she just got on with it there. Slightly vexing though, none of that was really suitable for harvesting. There's nice patches of good eggs, but all with, on the opposite side of the frame, sealed brood on the other side, and I don't really want to cull that, so I'm actually pretty happy to go with Second Best Queen. So Second Best Queen is in this one actually, this side of the mating nook. So the mating nook, the rearing hive, and so she is pretty prolific, and they're much calmer. I got a sting there. I got a sting from them, and I was super gentle as well. This suit, something about this suit really annoys them, and it makes me look like Tinky Winky. So I might downgrade this suit to not being used as much, because I get stung in it all the time. Even though I wash it, I wash the aggression pheromone off. There we go. So yes, so we'll have a look in here and see if we can't harvest anything out of these ones.
On reflection, I think that the issue with this suit is that the fabric is a looser weave, so it's much easier for the bees to push the stinger through to get me, but I get stung all the time, usually on the shoulder where the fabric is pulled a bit tighter, and so whereas my white one, which is my favoured one, it's about the right size, and rather than oversized like this one, or a little bit smaller, like a little bit too small like some of the others, the fabric is a little bit tighter, and I get stung in it much less. So to skip ahead, I do find an excellent frame here, which has eggs on one side and nothing on the reverse side of it, which is just perfect. So I can shake the bees off it and then take it away to cut it. And so as I mentioned in the last video, the cutting process is just about selecting a good area of eggs and avoiding the wire reinforcement in the foundation that the honeycomb is built on. So you see me just cutting out a patch, trying not to cut too much out so as not to be wasteful. As you see, I do actually have a bit left over, which just sadly is wasted. And so I'm sure as my experience grows with this, I'll start cutting out patches which are much better suited for the numbers that I'm wanting to graft. And so I won't dwell on this, as it's much the same as in the last video. We cut around a cell with an egg in the bottom of, trim off the excess around it, try very hard not to deform it. If we deform it, then we'll have to start again. And then the only refinement on last time, as you'll see, is I'm just heating the blob of wax on the frame and just getting a bit of a melt on there, and then sticking the cell onto that. And as you see, I mean, that might seem not very secure, but as long as it holds the weight there, the bees, when they then build it out, as you'll have seen in the other video where I show you the finished frame from the first round, they do then reinforce around with extra wax. They're very clever like that. And so it just needs to hold the weight of it now, and then the bees will reinforce it as it's required. So to skip ahead, as it's quite slow and repetitive, and you've seen it in a previous video, here are 10 cells, the 10th one going on now, and then hopefully this time all 10 will get drawn out, because the rearing hive should be much more keen, having had brood in there for a lot longer, or being broodless a lot longer. They should be really hungry for eggs to bring on as queens. And so I do just check through the rearing chamber to check that they're eggless, that a queen hasn't snuck in there, which is a fairly slim chance, but also just to have a little look at to see if they've brought in any queen cells of their own. So there's some cups there that I'm showing the camera. And here's a very small cup again. No egg in it. They don't have a queen that's able to lay in that. And then here, 2 more little cups. All these being really positive indicators that the bees are keen to bring on queens. They're just not able to without any eggs in there. And reading up further, the original source that I took this design from, on the John Harding method of queen rearing, they do have a little side note saying that the bees get better with practice at bringing on queens. So that's something else to factor into things, that hopefully these bees will become better at making queen cells. So on the final frame we find an occupied queen cell. And you see that that's also sealed, so there's a queen larva in there, and that defeats our purposes. If they've got her, they're going to be less inclined to bring on these other ones, so we trim that one off, trying to keep it intact. She can go in the incubator at home and may become useful later. But she is a little bit of a grub queen. She's not very big. They'll have brought that out from the honeycomb rather than from an egg in a cup, and so she's never going to be as big as we'd really like. And so all that remains is to very carefully slot in our frame with our eggs that we're eager for queens to come off into the centre of that brood nest. And then we leave it in the hands of the bees, so we will know in about 4 days' time how well they've done there, and then they should be ready to take off in 8 days' time to take home and put in an incubator. And then a further 8 days, 16 days in total, they should start to hatch out. They need to be kept separate to stop them from fighting, and then we will be ready to put them into new hives to get mated and get started.
So there we go, we'll have to see how they do. The queen cups and the 1 queen cell that I've got here, and I'll put in an incubator just to give it a shot, but you see it's a little bit small. We'll see how they roll out. I'm confident. I've got a lot more hope that the refinements that we've done today will add to that. Plus the donor colonies on either side are looking really bonny, so I think we're going to do well. I hope that's been informative on top of the previous videos, and if you liked it, do please like and comment, and if you haven't yet, do also subscribe. It helps us out a huge amount trying to grow the channel, and I will look forward to seeing you again in our next video. Bye bye. Here's a lovely little bonus. Queen from the previous rearing has hatched now, so she's somewhere in here in this little cluster of bees waiting to be mated. Once that's successful, I'll look to maybe reinforce her with some bees from other colonies to give her a good chance. Pleasing.